You're a huge example, a huge inspiration. I mean, Mark, you're talking a little over a year ago is you got started. You went out and found a vacant building on a busy road and were able to contract this building and flip it to McDonald's of all people. And so this is just crazy. Like, this is one of the funnest things I've ever heard of. Who gets to say, I flipped a deal to McDonald's, one of the largest corporations in the world? You flip them a deal. That to me is just absolutely amazing. So now what can't you do, Mark? There's nothing you can't do. When you flip a deal to McDonald's, there's nothing you can't do now. Thanks for joining me, Mark. I've come to know you a little bit. Got to spend some time with you in Puerto Rico when you came out to our Fast Track live training. You've been active in our community. You're doing deals. You're out there on the ground, pounding the pavement. You're one of my favorite students because you're an active learner. You're not afraid to try things. You immediately put things to action. I know if I say, hey, Mark, try this, you'll go try it and you'll see results. So you're just an action taker. You're the perfect example to me of imperfect action. Just take that action. Maybe it's sloppy. Maybe you fumble through it, but you're sort of like me. You'd like to jump into the deep end of the pool and like doggy paddle till you make it. And some people learn quite a bit that way. And you're one of those learners that way. So it's exciting to be a little bit a part of your journey and see what you're doing and help whatever ways I can. And one of the things that happened here, just to put some context to this, my good friend Sharie Meir, who lives out by me in Puerto Rico, he's really big into commercial, and he's got a product and some training and a model that is a commercial flipping strategy, and it's a finder program. You learned about that. You took some of that training, and then you went out and found a vacant building on a busy road and we're able to contract this building and flip it to McDonald's of all people. And so this is just crazy. Like, this is one of the funnest things I've ever heard of. Like, who gets to say, I wish I could say, who gets to say, I flipped a deal to McDonald's, one of the largest corporations in the world. You flip them a deal, right? Like, that's just wild. So I'm super excited to kind of hear your story. And so maybe start from the beginning there. How in the world did you go from wholesaling and flipping residential houses in your market, which is now, I think you've moved to Texas recently,
I'm in
to
Texas.
a commercial deal to McDonald's? Like, how do you jump from there to there?
Great question, but I got the actual documents, the closing docs with letterheads from McDonald's. I think it's interesting too. I want to really amplify what you guys are sharing about, just developing yourself as an entrepreneur and as a business owner and as somebody who is going to be in the 1% versus the 99. I personally believe everybody can do it. I just don't believe everybody's willing to pay the price to get there. And the reason I want to say this is because there's going to come a time when every one of us is going to be like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Why am I this is going nowhere. The ones who will succeed in this and actually become the next Jerry Norton or Pace Morby or whoever it is the ones who resolve with concrete resolution that you are going to make this work no matter what it costs, no matter what it takes. If you're willing to do that and you're willing to learn, there's nobody that's going to stop you. And that's kind of been my mindset, my resolve. And that's why, I've got a contract on a building now for $3.1 million, and it's a great location. This deal goes, I'm probably going to make $2 million on it. And
Wow.
that's a big check, man. So 13 months ago is when I discovered for the first time that I can do real estate without any of my own money. And man, let me tell you what, if I was on camera and it was possible, my jaw would have hit the ground. And it's what the heck am I doing with my life? In a good way. So I immediately just dove in and I watched some of the creative finance playlist with you and Pace. That's like 25 videos or something like that. And man, that same day I was calling people on Zillow and trying to buy their house.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey,
Massive action.
Yeah, that commenced my journey. And within about a month, maybe 6 weeks, I had already gotten into my first wholesale deal. I made $5,000 and I paid for the fast track program with that. Since then, I had done a bunch of wholesale deals, and then we went to Puerto Rico, and I met Sharie. And Sharif's a real cool guy. I remember when he just took us out to Old San Juan, if you haven't been there, and he walked us around the city. And I was as close to him as I could be, to the point where I was like almost probably creepy. But I wanted to just hear what he said, because I got a window into his mind on how he thought as an investor, as a business guy. And it just was like that second epiphany, like, oh my gosh, man, this makes too much sense not to do,
Just so you know, too, I mean, Sharie Meir is a billionaire with a B. He's the largest commercial property owner in Old San Juan. There's a cruise line district, they call it, which is where all the cruise line traffic goes. And he owns like most of that real estate. He's a big deal. He's a pretty amazing person and a wealth of knowledge.
and he's a real cool guy, and he really likes to help you. And so that's it was really impactful for me. And so I learned what he did, and I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, and I'm just trying to put it to practice. Interestingly, like I started going through Sharif's training program. All the while, I'm like, yeah, I still got to pay my bills now. I still got a family to feed. So I'm still calling the agents. I'm still trying to do like single family wholesale deal. For any of you who don't know me, I'm the opposite of an introvert. I like to talk and build relationships and, try to just make the people remember me if they don't have a dealer, if they don't take my offer. And so I was doing just that. I was like, hey, I'm looking for these kind of commercial buildings too. If you happen to find one, you can write my offer, you can get the commission or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, somebody else in my brokerage has an old, it's in Bamberg, South Carolina. And I was like, what the hell's Bamberg? And so I just looked at it, and it was an old Burger King. It was a few years old. And I was like, let's try. I've never heard of it.
Vacant, right? Vacant.
Yeah, vacant building. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I would do this for any one of you guys too, to add to your repertoire too. So, and I'll get to that in a second. She brought me the building, man. It was vacant. It was hard getting rental comps on it. And that's part of the process of underwriting. Because when these buildings, you're not looking at sales comps, you're looking at revenue. And these buildings are evaluated by how much income they make.
Just to pause you there a second, Mark. Everybody listening, if you don't understand commercial, what's different is residential, you value the property based on what other similar homes are selling for. In commercial, you base the value off of the income potential it generates.
Yes.
So it doesn't really matter like what another Burger King or McDonald's sold for or similar building sold for. What matters is what's the use of it and what kind of revenue can it generate. So Mark is basing his offer on the potential revenue of the building. And now how do we get an offer based on some discounted number off of value?
Because of the location, it was not easy to get rental comps on the lease. And so we just kind of guesstimated it a little bit. I think it was like $25 or $28 a square foot. And so I made an offer on the building for $600,000 in cash. So here's the thing, like I just went through the list. I called everybody that does business in South Carolina that wants a quick service restaurant with a drive-through at this amount of square feet. And I mean, I just blasted it out there. And I had a few people like, Zaxby's Chicken is. Zaxby's wasn't interested because it's too green. So there's not, it's just such a small town. It was like 2,300 people. In the town. It was like really nobody there, 16,000 cars, And I was getting kind of like, man, I'm learning from this, but I'm not sure if this is going to work. And then I had a 45 due diligence period, and I was probably like 30 days into the due diligence period, if not more. Everybody is coming back to me and saying the location is too rural. Dunkin' Donuts, Andy's Frozen Custard, there were a couple other ones. And the McDonald's just responded like, hey, how much to buy the building? And so the strategy that I'm trying to do is lease the building, because the lease on the building will give a much larger upside. And so McDonald's wanted to buy it. And I was like, hey, Sharie, if he wants to buy it, like, what do I do? And he's like, just wholesale in the building like you always do, just to sell it to him. And I was like, okay, cool, not bad. So they flew a guy out from Mexico. Dude, I thought it was going to be like a 2-hour ordeal, but it ended up being like 9 hours, dude, a whole day at a Burger King, 3 hours from home. And I was like, damn, I didn't bring lunch or nothing, but that's okay.
You get to eat there for free from now on?
I wouldn't eat there if you paid me, but they flew a guy out from Mexico and he did a survey. I mean, they measured everything down to like a fraction of an inch to make sure that it fits their layout, it fits their kitchen equipment, etc. It was really interesting. It was like, yeah, we should be good to go. And then they followed up and they said, yeah, they gave me an option like a week or 10 days later, like right at the edge of my due diligence period. So here's where this kind of gets fun, and here's where the mindset comes in, is because my due diligence period was up, and I had $5,000 of refundable EMD during my due diligence period, and part of my contract was that if we choose to move forward in the deal, then I would put in another $20,000 of hard non-refundable EMD for a total of $25K. Okay. I ain't got 20 grand that I just want to give or some, not McDonald's, but the owner of the building.
On a commercial building in a rural town, on a strategy that you're brand new learning how to do, that would be pretty risky to go hard on 25 grand. No one's going to do that.
Dude, super risky, but I did it, dude. And here's how I did it. And so I went back to my agent, and she kind of knew what I was doing. And I was like, hey, look, we really want to move forward with the building. We just have to do a little bit more due diligence. I need you to push the due diligence period back 15 days. That gave me the time for McDonald's to say, yes, we're going to do this, because it's corporate, man. It's a big business. They move like the government does. And if you've ever done permits doing flip houses, it sucks. Unless you're in South Carolina, then it's not bad. So McDonald's on day 59 of due diligence said that they sent me an option to buy. which still doesn't guarantee me that they're going to do it. And McDonald's is like $1 trillion company, man. And so
Yeah.
like 50 grand of them is nothing.
Yeah.
And so they gave me an option to buy with a $30,000 option fee. And so they wired the $30,000 option fee to my escrow account to cover my EMD.
They obviously knew your situation, that you had the contract and all of that, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't care.
Yeah. They didn't care. So
They don't
what
care.
the challenge was is that McDonald's, they have their own lawyers, man. Like, you ever seen that movie, The Founder, the guy, the guy, that guy's a total snake, man. That guy just, they'll walk all over you and get away with it because they can, because they have the money.
Yeah. Ray Kroc.
Dude, I'm dealing with this dude right here and his legacy. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like risky as heck, man. So they put up the 30K EMD for me. And so I had a total now of 35,000. I had an extra 5 grand in escrow.
Yeah.
And that saved my butt because it really mitigated my risk. Because McDonald's took so long to do their diligence, they were like, dude, we need like, I think it was like 60 days to close or 90 days to close. And my contract was 15. Oh my gosh. And so I had to go back and renegotiate an extension on closing twice. And then I had to, like, the last one I sent, I was like, look, we really want to move forward with the building. There's a couple of things that just the process. And so I had to basically write a nice letter to my agent that she forwarded on to the sellers and the selling agent. And I explained to them why I need this. And I was like, look, I initially promised to give you $25,000 in EMD. And I'll give you another $5,000 hard EMD if we don't do the deal, just for your, your graciousness and your courtesy by giving us the extension. But we really want to close. We're committed to doing this. We put all this work in. Let's make it happen. And they did. They gave me an extension to June 3rd. And so it's kind of just a waiting game at that point, just following up with a McDonald's guy. I've got a couple of McDonald's guys on the real estate team.
And Mark, what were the numbers? Like, so you had it at 600. What was McDonald's saying they'll pay?
700,000. I was like, man, I probably could have said 800 grand. They probably would have did it too. And I'm like, damn, I think I'll have money on the table.
I'm sure you did, because when they want the building, and it's McDonald's, for crying out loud. Like, are they really gonna say no to another 100 grand? You know what I mean?
Probably not, dude. And so after this, man, is once I kept on pressing them, because my agent was like, hey, these sellers want to go out of the country. They didn't want to wait this long to close. Can we move this forward? Like, what can you do? And I'm trying to like mediate this whole thing because the sellers want to get it done. I want to get it done. McDonald's is super slow. And so I got them to agree to, June 3rd was a Monday. I got them to agree to close the Friday before that. So I think that was May 30th or something like that, or May 31st. Wow. And so everything was good. They sent me, like, that mail document I just showed you was like McDonald's corporate real estate division sending me the letter explaining that they're going to exercise their option. They want to exercise the option. They want to buy, etc. Okay, cool. But whatever, this doesn't really mean anything to me. So let's get it done. Here's the sticky part. McDonald's would not do an assignment of contract because they didn't like my contract. I had a state contract, and I was like, why? I mean, they weren't going to not do this. They're licensed agents, like they're accountable to the SCREC, and they also wouldn't use my.
Why didn't they like it? They wanted just theirs.
Yeah, they wanted their own contract. They wanted their own escrow agent, and which was an attorney out of Columbia. And what I had was like, no, we're not doing this. It's not an option. Like, we're going to do it this way. We're not going to do it. And I was like, at this point, okay, nobody wanted to lease this. This is it. So I need to make this happen. And so, like, that's the mindset. Like, we have to make this happen. And during my renegotiation of the timeline of the closing, not once did I ever convince myself this is not going to work. This is too risky. I don't really want to ask the sellers for anything else. I'm just like, hey, look, we're going to get this done, and this is what I need. So let's make it happen. Sign on the dotted line. And it worked, dude. It just worked. And so once closing came in, within about a week and a half of the 30th, once I got the, like, hey, we're going to close this date. Now, keep in mind, we're going to close, I think 31st, if you want to say 31st of May, which is a Friday. My contract was up until June 3rd. Otherwise, I would technically be in default. And so I had an escrow agent in Greenville, South Carolina, named Bruin Law. And then they had their B2C escrow agent in Columbia. And I didn't know this at the time, but transactional lenders don't like that.
Two different title companies.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. I had a lender, not going to name any names, and it was uber stressful. I had somebody lined up to give me $564,000, and they asked me for all these requirements, and I satisfied all the requirements. And dude, like, on closing day, on the 31st of May, like in the afternoon, dude, they ghosted me.
Because you're double closing now, is what you're doing.
Yeah, it was a double close.
You're double closing because they don't want your assignment, so then they want to sign a new purchase agreement. So you did a BC contract that McDonald's liked, And you're double closing it just because they didn't like your original contract with the
Yeah,
seller.
correct. They
Okay.
wouldn't do an
But
assignment.
the problem is you're using two different title companies because you already opened escrow with your title company and they're McDonald's again, doing McDonald's owns the world. So they're doing it their way and they have their own title company. So now you're trying to double close between two title companies and your lender goes squirrely at the last minute.
I mean, vanished. I still haven't heard back from them, dude. Email and phone call. So this is Friday evening. I'm supposed to close today. People are like, "What the heck is going on?" And but I've got 2 days. I've got the weekend until Monday.
You got the weekend to come up with 600 grand.
A little bit less than 600 grand. Yeah.
Okay. Because you have option fee in there. But yeah, okay.
I've got to make this happen. Otherwise, if I don't, I'm in default on both contracts. So that puts me on the hook. Not making this happen is just, it's not an option. Like this is not an option. Like this is getting done. How do we get it done? It's not like I can't do it. It's how can I do it? Right. And that's a big mindset shift for people on here. It's don't ever say I can't do it. You always have to ask, how can I do it? And then make a way and then get it done. Because I guarantee Jerry could share that same sentiment. Yeah. He means it because he's done it. I just reached out to as many people I could find. That was my prerogative. I got to get that money. And, I got a lot of pushback on the two different escrow agents. It was super risky. The interesting part, the escrow agent wasn't the lawyer that I was talking to, didn't understand that my transactional lender wanted to confirm that McDonald's funds were waiting in escrow to be dispersed on the B2C side. She just didn't get it. And so it literally took half a day just to call because she had a sick kid that day, go and figure. So I wasn't able to reach her to just, hey, I just need you to do this. Like, it's so simple. Just get this done and then we'll get it funded. So I found a lender, finally, charged me 2 points for the cash. So I found him on Friday evening, actually. He assured me over the weekend. He asked me some questions. Everything was good to go. And then he started to kind of like pump the brakes a little bit on Monday. And I was like, dude, what the heck? What do you need me to do? I'm going to do this right now. And so I had to go back to the escrow agent and sign a mortgage because he wanted to record the note on it just in case, I get it. You wanted to save this cash. That's fine. I have no problem with that. And so I did that. And then once I did everything he asked, he was still apprehensive to send the cash, man. And I was like, dude, you've got the confirmation the funds are in escrow. They're just waiting for these funds to go in and that's it, man. And then he was just like, he called me, he's like, all right, I just sent the wire. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, dude. Awesome, bro. Monday, I want to say around 3 p.m. I looked and I got a wire in my account for $81,250. The proceeds came off. I had to, pay some prorated taxes. I had to pay recording fees and I had to, just
double close. You picked up all those fees. Yeah. And the funding fees. Yeah.
So it was 81, a little over 81 grand I got from it. And, but that was cool, man. It was a great experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now I know. And I've got the guy on McDonald's on standby. And so now I've got the proof of concept. I've done the deal. I've got a list of properties, like 90 properties from people that have brought me deals. And I'm saying, hey, look, if I do a deal on this, I will give you a finder fee, whatever we negotiate. And so here's my thing now, because I know how this works. And I know I've met some people that if I get a contract with an LOI from, I don't know, say Trader Joe's, I'm looking at Trader Joe's for my building in Florida. Trader Joe's has money. And if they give me a corporate guarantee, like I can get somebody to fund 100% of the buy of that building. They'll probably use 80% on a DSCR and then give me a bridge loan for the rest.
Yeah. So just to pause you for a second, if you guys are not following what Mark is saying, if you find a building, then you go find a tenant that's willing to pay a lease. And if it's a corporate tenant, like if it's a Trader Joe's or a CVS or something like that, a big box tenant, then that's worth its weight in gold because those corporations, those companies, they guarantee those leases, right? And there's a lot of weight behind that guarantee. People can take it to the bank is the point. So then what you do is you find the building, you get a lease agreement on the building. Now you can go sell that building for a premium because an investor will buy that knowing that they've got a 10-year or 20-year, whatever. They got a Trader Joe's or McDonald's, whoever in that building. So that's the strategy. Find the building, get a lease worked out with a corporate company, then go sell the deal to somebody that's going to bank on that cash flow.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because you have, just to explain this a little bit, like I've got a contract on a building in Florida, in Homosassa, Florida, and it's my buy price is $3.1 million. So I've got it at like a 13 cap, and which is awesome. And so it's a great building. It was a CVS, and CVS pulled out, and the guy that bought it, he didn't know what to do after CVS. He bought it for $6 million, man, $6 million, and he's taking a haircut, a big haircut.
Mm-hmm.
Must not taste so good. But I've got the contract for $3.1 million on it, and if I lease that out for what I can lease it out for. With that lease in place, that building would automatically, with that lease in place, be worth like 5.8 million. So
based on its income, right? So
on
so
its
that
income, yeah, based on its
yeah,
lease,
based
you know.
yeah,
And
based
so
on the lease income, you do the multipliers, and that's what they would value it at. That's what an
yeah,
investor would buy it for. Because if they buy it for the 6 million, they got that lease in place, they make X return, which
guaranteed return on cash. And so
a cap rate, yeah.
yeah, guaranteed return on cash. Guaranteed. It's like the safest investment a bank could lend on. And so what I would do what Sharif does, except he's got his fund and he's got a good relationship with the bank. He's farther ahead than me. But I've made relationships where I can raise that capital to fund the buy of the building. And then I would essentially just sell it exactly what he's going to do. I'd have to probably pay a prepayment penalty on it, but dude, I don't care.
So after doing McDonald's, you caught the vision, and you're now trying to scale this model and rinse and repeat.
It's so simple. It's so
Gotcha.
like my mind. It's so like Ben said, it's simple, but it's not easy. Like
Yeah.
it's grind, right? I've got it. It's not going to lease itself out, right? I've got to take the effort on it. And sometimes I got to call corporations and find out who to talk to. And sometimes people just have a clue because nobody's calling freaking DSW, for example, the shoe store.
Yeah.
Dude, no one calls the operator, bro, and says, "Hey, I want to talk to somebody about real estate. I want to lease out a building." Like no one says that.
Are you leveraging Sharif's corporate tenant list?
Yes, I am, but it's
Yeah.
not. Sometimes it doesn't have all of the contacts on there. So like it's got the business and it's got the people I want to talk to and like the square footage, the states they operate, but it doesn't
It's a
have
starting point.
yeah, and I can just go back and check it out. And I had to pay for LinkedIn on that. And so it's a pretty good strategy, man. And so
Yeah.
like deals from start to finish might take a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
again, for example, if I'm gonna do that deal without Sharif, like that's a 7-figure deal.
Yeah.
So, and if you brought me that deal for a finder fee, even if I gave you 10% of that deal, man, even if I
It's
gave you
huge.
10% of that, yeah, I give you $100,000 on that, if not more. And I probably negotiate if you were going to be faithful to it, I'd probably give you more than 10%. But
So what's the ideal property? I mean, are you looking for a standalone building on a busy road? That's the idea.
yeah, standalone single tenant building that's vacant. And
Yeah.
I've got like a spreadsheet. People have been bringing me like I got like 90 of them on there. And I've worked through some aren't for sale. You'd be surprised when brokers list properties like how unresponsive they are. It's like, dude, you really want to sell the building or what?
Yeah.
What the heck? Yeah.
No, they just signed a listing and then forgot about it and went on with life is probably what happened.
Yeah. But I think one of the things, man, that I really want to inject in here that I think piggybacks on what you guys shared. And so I went to WealthCon in an event in Vegas a couple of months ago in April with Ryan Pineda's guys and Pace and Jim were there. And it was interesting. And one of the things that really was impactful for me is I got to see a lot of high operators, 7, 8, 9-figure earners speak. And I got kind of a window into, a glimpse of, their thought processes and their values just by what they shared. And I was confronted that, damn, I'm pretty lazy. And how did I come up with that idea is because, I'm a big Jesus guy. And, I believe God made us for a reason. And, there's a lot of potential that we can develop as we age and mature and through life experiences. And so that event helped me to see the potential that Mark could become. My current today, I'm not there yet. And one of the things I saw was such an immense level of discipline and intentionality on all of these people. And, I like this, I've kind of adopted this idea where, like today, let's be 1% better than we were yesterday on purpose. And I was like, damn, I'm actually pretty freaking lazy, man. Like nobody can do anything about that but me.
I would say that's all perspective. I mean, you're comparing yourself to somebody at a higher level, but honestly, Mark, you're probably on the lazy scale ahead of 99% of people in the general population. So don't beat yourself up too bad.
No, I'm not beating myself up, but to me, I'm eating this as an encouragement because it's like I see what I can become in all of us, that same potential.
And lazy, being more productive isn't necessarily working harder. It's working smarter, right? It's learning how to be more efficient at what you do. And it's learning how to look at a higher scale in what you do. So like what you're doing right now, like, it's just as much work to do residential as it is to do commercial, but you might be doing 7-figure wholesales with commercial, whereas you're not going to be doing that with residential just because the numbers aren't there for it. That's also doubling the talents that God gave you. The parable of the talents in the Bible is God gave us talents. He blessed us with things, and our responsibility is to double those efforts, to double what we've been giving, or at least compound it in some way. Otherwise, we're wasting the resource that we've been given. And we've all been given resources, right? So are you squandering your life, or are you playing big? And that's not just financially, that's all areas of our lives. But I believe God put us on this earth to play big, not small. And
Yeah, yeah, amen.
I for one feel like God wants me to have a massive impact, not a little impact. And
Yes.
so every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, what impact am I to have on the world, and how do I live into that? Because that's what I'm called to do. And life is about fulfilling the calling that we have. And, most of our life, we try to find that calling. But once we identify it, and it can change, but once we identify it, now it's time to go live it the best way we can.
I have a motivation, like a drive within me to reach that potential. And I think analogously is you think about military, right? I'm a military guy. I live in a military town now, and not everybody can be a Navy SEAL, right? And so the guys that are Navy SEALs get there because there's nothing encumbering them from reaching it. And the biggest encumbrance is always your mindset and your willingness to press on. And there's a guy named David Goggins, and he has this idea where, like, dude, when you feel like you've reached your breaking point, you're actually only reaching 40% of your potential. And so you've got to will yourself through that. And it's the same thing in business. So you can settle for mundane, or you can actually realize how much you have to offer and how much you can do and what you're capable of if you actually just discipline yourself and really have clear vision about where you want to go and what you want to become, and then don't let anybody or anything stop you. And if you have to move people out of your life. You can do what Jerry's doing. He didn't get there from day one, but he didn't give up, and he's been doing it and pressing in for since he learned how to do it. And look what he's done.
And actually, if you look at it, it's actually a very slow, boring, tedious journey. There's nothing really exciting about it. It's just 20 years of pounding the pavement every day, right? So it's not even an overnight sensation, which is what we all love to hear. It's just grinding at it for a long time, longer than most, and willing to stay in the game when others quit, that sort of thing. I mean, Mark, I'm looking at your trajectory of your growth, and like you're light years ahead of me when I started and most people. And it's just amazing to see what you're doing. Stay humble, keep working at it. But you're a huge example, a huge inspiration. I hope you guys listening to this see that Mark, you're talking a little over a year ago is you got started and you flipped a deal. Well, how long ago?
I learned about sub 2 in June of last year.
June. So a little over a year from this recording, and you flipped a deal to McDonald's. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. I mean, that to me is just absolutely amazing. And now you've got some 7-figure deals in the pipeline, and you're just doing so well. You just did a deal I saw in our Facebook group where it was a 45K assignment on a residential house. So I'm just super proud of you, Mark. Thank you for being an example to others. Thank you for being willing to share. You're very vocal about sharing your thoughts, ideas, your spiritual journey too, which I really admire. Guys, leave a comment and say, Mark, you're a flipping genius. And if you were to go back, I saw this question. I think it was Mary asked it. If you were to go back through that McDonald's deal, what would you do differently on the net? I mean, you mentioned ask a higher price. I mean, we can always do that, but anything else that was like, if I could go back and do it again, I would do this. I would say one thing I learned from your story was whenever you're dealing with any of these corporate entities, make sure going into your deals that you structure really long timelines, because every one of them is going to be bureaucratic on how they do things. When you're locking something up and you're creating due diligence periods and all of that, just give yourself twice as long on your front end structure, knowing that you're probably going to ask for extensions anyway, but you got to give Dunkin' Donuts, some corporate guy and who knows where, time to run that thing all the way. That McDonald's deal, I mean, think about it, guys. It probably went through 18 committees before they could, sign the option, and then a whole bunch more committees before they could close, and all these things, because it has to go through. It's a $1 trillion company,
Yeah.
So just know that going in when you're doing something like that.
Yes, and that's kind of what happened. And so, but don't be scared, man.
Well, money is a thermostat, like I've got a land deal right now where we have the contract for 4.9 and we're talking to a serious developer for 6, and it's on an option. So we have it on an option for 4.9. It's an 18-month option with 10,000 down is all it is. So got into the deal very easy, very low into the deal. And now we might end up wholesaling that for 1.1, and we'll find, if he doesn't want it, we'll find another one. It's 229 acres in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Oh, beautiful place.
But my point with that is that's not my first $1 million transaction. As you transact, money is a thermostat. So now for you, Mark, you're resetting your thermostat. Your new normal is going to be six-figure deals. Your new normal, once you start transacting in the seven figures, is going to be seven-figure deals. That's going to be your new normal. And the way you create a new normal is you do the deal, you climb the ladder, you do a bigger deal. Now that feels normal. Like after going through that McDonald's deal, there isn't a hairy deal out there that you couldn't get through now because you went through the most complicated. There were 27 times where that deal could have fallen apart and you just stomached through it and muscled through it and got it to the finish line. So now what can't you do, Mark? There's nothing you can't do. When you flip a deal to McDonald's, there's nothing you can't do now.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, man? And to give you some credit too, when we were in Puerto Rico, this was October, the end of October of last year. This is when I met Jerry in person. Thought you were going to be a little bit taller, but that's okay. I'm just a giant. But
you are tall.
I am, not by choice. I was doing at that time, the highest deal that I did at that time was a $10,000 fee. Most of them were between 5 and 10 grand. That was my thing. And you were like, dude, why are you working for so low? And I was like, what do you mean? This is more money than I've ever made in my life. And so that was just a mental barrier for me when I was not able to believe and see myself being that guy that I'm earning $10, $20, $30,000 assignment fees.
I remember that conversation with you. Yeah, I remember that.
Translates into a lot of things in my life.
What I shared with you on that, Mark, is from my personal experience with my own journey. Oftentimes, to double your revenue in this business, it's not doubling your transactions, it's doubling your margins for the same number of transactions. It's not about transacting at a higher level. It's about transacting at a higher margin. I mean, transacting at a higher volume, it's about transacting at a higher margin. So think about it this way. If you're doing 10 deals a year, 20 deals a year, or a month, or whatever it is, it's not about doing double that to make more money. You do the same number of deals and buy twice as deep, right? Like go into that appointment at that number that is a good deep buy, anchor low and hold firm, be willing to walk out of there. They're going to call you more than not. They'll call you back or they'll feel your confidence. They'll take that deal, right? Like that's the name of the game. Buy deeper, create bigger margins, not do twice as many transactions at the smaller margins.
I learned this and it's like, okay, it's going to take me twice as much time to do those small deals. And so it's like my time is being halved. So if I would rather use the same amount of time and do one deal and make the same amount of money, I just would. I'd have a more enjoyable life, less stressful life. You know what I'm saying? Big
deals are easier than small deals. They really are.
And it's interesting, like for everybody listening to this call, like really ask yourself, a genuine, transparent, like brutally honest question. Do you really believe that you are worth doing a $45,000 deal or a $25,000 deal or a $100,000 deal? One deal. Do you believe that you are worth making that money on a deal? Do you see that amount of value in yourself? And I would say yes, but I can't say yes for you. And I had to come into that process myself. I had to have that my mind literally renewed.
Well, you earned every penny of that $80,000 McDonald's deal. You earned every penny of that. You did. And that one you just did for 45,000, you earned every penny of that deal too.
That was much easier.
because your responsibility is to your family, your partners, your employees is to sell that deal for the highest price the market will bear and to offer the seller the price that they're willing to accept given their situation. And that's your job. That's your job as an investor, as an entrepreneur, as a provider. That's your job. So I believe that wholeheartedly, that you deserve every penny of that.
Amen.
And if you don't, you're not going to show up very well in this business.
Yes.
This is a fascinating interview. One of my favorite conversations I've had, Mark. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. Again, leave Mark a comment and say you're a flipping genius. You're a commercial flipping genius.